Narrative: the Second World War, a cataclysmic maelstrom of human ambition, tragedy, and resilience, unfolded between 1939 and 1945, reshaping the very fabric of global civilization. It was a conflict so vast, so all-encompassing, that it drew nearly every nation on Earth into its fiery embrace. To understand World War II is to peer into the abyss of humanity's darkest hours, and to witness the flickering light of hope that emerged from its depths. The war began, as most great tragedies do, with a spark. On September 1st, 1939, Nazi Germany, under the iron-fisted rule of Adolf Hitler, launched a blitzkrieg, a lightning war, against Poland. The world watched in stunned silence as tanks rolled across borders and Stuka dive bombers screamed through the skies. Britain and France, bound by treaties, declared war on Germany, but their initial inaction during the phony war belied the storm that was to come. By 1940, the conflict had erupted into a full-blown conflagration. Hitler's war machine swept through Europe with terrifying efficiency. France, once thought impregnable, fell in a matter of weeks. The British, under the indomitable leadership of Winston Churchill, stood alone against the Nazi onslaught. The Battle of Britain, a fierce aerial duel over the English Channel, became a testament to human courage. Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few. Churchill famously declared, immortalizing the bravery of the Royal Air Force. Meanwhile, across the globe, another axis of tyranny was rising. Imperial Japan, hungry for resources and dominance, expanded its empire across Asia. The attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, was a day that would live in infamy, as U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt proclaimed. The surprise assault dragged the United States into the war, transforming it into a truly global struggle. The Eastern Front, where Nazi Germany clashed with the Soviet Union, was a theater of unimaginable brutality. The Siege of Leningrad, the Battle of Stalingrad. These were not mere battles, but titanic struggles of survival. The Soviet Union, under Joseph Stalin, bore the brunt of Hitler's aggression, sacrificing millions in a war of attrition that turned the tide against the Nazis. In the Pacific, the United States and its allies waged a grueling island-hopping campaign against Japan. The Battle of Midway, a pivotal naval engagement, marked the turning point in the Pacific War. Yet it was the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945 that ultimately brought Japan to its knees, ushering in the nuclear age and a new era of geopolitical tension. The war's end in 1945 left a world forever changed. The Holocaust, the systematic genocide of 6 million Jews, stood as a grim reminder of humanity's capacity for evil. Yet, from the ashes of destruction emerged the United Nations, a beacon of hope for a more peaceful world. World War II was not merely a conflict of armies, but a clash of ideologies, a struggle for the soul of humanity. It was a war that tested the limits of human endurance, ingenuity, and morality. And in its aftermath, it left a legacy that continues to shape our world today. Extended narrative. The Second World War was not merely a war. It was a sprawling epic, a tapestry woven with threads of heroism, betrayal, innovation, and devastation. It was a conflict that stretched from the frozen tundras of Russia to the sweltering jungles of Burma, from the sun-scorched deserts of North Africa to the storm-tossed Atlantic. Every theater of war had its own story, its own heroes, and its own tragedies. One of the most fascinating yet often overlooked aspects of the war was the role of espionage and deception. The Allies and Axis powers engaged in a shadowy game of cat and mouse, where secrets were the ultimate currency. The British, masters of subterfuge, orchestrated Operation Mincemeat, a daring plan to deceive the Nazis. They planted false documents on a corpse dressed as a British officer, convincing Hitler that the Allies would invade Greece instead of Sicily. The ruse worked, and the Allies gained a crucial foothold in Europe. Meanwhile, in the Pacific, the Navajo code talkers played a pivotal role in securing Allied communications. These Native American soldiers used their complex language to create an unbreakable code, confounding Japanese cryptographers. Their contributions remain one of the war's most extraordinary tales of ingenuity and cultural resilience. The war also saw the rise of technological marvels that would change the course of history. The German V-2 rocket, the world's first long-range guided ballistic missile, was a terrifying weapon of destruction. Yet, its creation also laid the groundwork for the space race, as many of its engineers, including Wernher von Braun, later worked for NASA. Similarly, the development of radar and the cracking of the German Enigma code by Alan Turing and his team at Bletchley Park were feats of intellect that turned the tide of war. But for all its technological advancements, World War II was also a war of human endurance. The siege of Leningrad, which lasted 872 days, was a harrowing testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Cut off from supplies, the citizens of Leningrad endured starvation, freezing temperatures, and constant bombardment. They ate bread made from sawdust and glue, and yet they held on, refusing to surrender to the Nazi siege. In the Pacific, the Burma Campaign was a grueling struggle fought in some of the most inhospitable terrain on Earth. The British-led Chindits, under the command of Major General Ord Wingate, conducted daring long-range penetration missions behind Japanese lines. These operations, though costly, disrupted enemy supply lines and boosted Allied morale. The war also had its share of unlikely heroes. Take, for instance, Wojciech the bear, a Syrian brown bear adopted by Polish soldiers. Wojciech not only became a beloved mascot, but also helped carry artillery shells during the Battle of Monte Cassino. After the war, he lived out his days in a Scottish zoo, a symbol of camaraderie and resilience. And then there were the women of World War II, whose contributions were nothing short of extraordinary. From the Night Witches, an all-female Soviet bomber regiment that struck fear into the hearts of German soldiers, to the Rosie the Riveters who kept American factories running, women proved that the war effort was not confined to the battlefield. The war's end in 1945 was not a simple conclusion, but a complex reckoning. The Nuremberg trials sought to bring Nazi war criminals to justice, setting a precedent for international law. The Marshall Plan aimed to rebuild a shattered Europe, fostering economic recovery and preventing the spread of communism. Yet, the war's aftermath also saw the rise of the Cold War, a new kind of conflict that would dominate the second half of the 20th century. World War II was a crucible in which the modern world was forged. It was a war that tested the limits of human courage, ingenuity, and morality. It was a war that gave us stories of unimaginable horror and extraordinary heroism. And it was a war that reminds us, even today, of the cost of freedom and the enduring strength of the human spirit.